Hey guys, StatKing here with another episode of Dark Powerrr. We're going to be reviewing AEW Dark and this week's episode of NWA Powerrr. So this week's episode of Dark is actually kind of a hybrid episode. There are three matches. It's Nyla Rose versus Shanna in a tables match, Kip Sabian versus QT Marshall, and the Dark Order versus Sonny Kiss and Brandon Cutler. But what's kind of interesting is that the Kip Sabian and QT Marshall match is actually taped from the Jericho Cruise. So they start off in the arena with Nyla Rose and Shanna, then they go to a match on the cruise, and then back to the arena for Dark Order versus Sonny Kiss and Brandon Cutler. So let's start with that tables match. It's, to me, probably the best match of the night because it had the most cohesive story. We know the story being told here, the issues back and forth between Nyla Rose and Shanna. Shanna was able to get Nyla Rose through a table when they were supposed to have a match at last week's Dark. Now they're having an actual tables match. So there's kind of a good back and forth that's been going on between the face and the heel for some time. We're interested in the story. We know what's going on. It's as opposed to more of a fresh or a story with no kind of heat behind it. This does have that, and it has it in spades. You can tell that both of these women do not like each other. Nyla Rose does pick up the win. It's a very good story being told in the match about Shanna trying to be as fast as possible to try to get Nyla Rose through a table, but she's having problems with the power game. For those of you who are fans of Samoa Joe on Up, Up, Down, Down, she has a problem with her power game to be able to get Nyla Rose up and through that table. After the match, Nyla Rose continues to beat up on Shanna, causing Shady Gibbs to come out and adding a new wrinkle to the story being told here, that Sadie's coming to Shanna's rescue for her troubles. She too is put through a table. Nyla Rose will not be stopped, and it seems as though she has a date with Destiny when it comes to a rematch with Riho for the AEW Women's title. So moving to the match that's on the Jericho Cruise, this is Kip Sabian versus QT Marshall. This is a very straightforward match. When I see QT Marshall, I'm not expecting him to be pulling out some kind. If he's a win, if he's by himself, I'm just not expecting that. And Kip Sabian, somebody who needs wins far more than QT Marshall because there's no, I don't know like what kind of story they're really telling for the QT Marshall character, but you can see some kind of storyline or overall arc for Kip Sabian. It's kind of funny that Kip Sabian's kind of been up and down, middle of the road, not in terms of match quality, but just character progression or character arcs within AEW. However, in the same way that they always bring up when Finn Balor's in the ring, that this is the first ever Universal Champion, then no announcer will ever fail to mention that Kip Sabian is the man with the first win in AEW's history because of the Double or Nothing buy-in. Kip Sabian picks up the win, and we're back in the arena, or in an A arena, for Dark Order versus Sonny Kiss and Brandon Cutler. This is kind of an interesting match. I've long held the opinion, and I've stated it here before, and I will again, right now, that Brandon Cutler is a undercover member of the Dark Order. And what's interesting is that in this match, which is supposed to be a tag team match, Brandon Cutler never gets tagged in, and they lose. Sonny Kiss takes the entirety of the match for their team. Sonny Kiss, valiant effort, but cannot overcome the numbers game and the strength game of the Dark Order, especially when they continue to cut him off from being able to tag in Brandon Cutler. So the match progresses very quickly, but Brandon Cutler does not have a scratch on him. And yes, he is clearly upset that they lost the match, and he comes in to check on Sonny Kiss after the match and all that. But at the same time, why is he not having a scratch on him? Is it the Dark Order just wanting to win, or is it the Dark Order wanting to win while also not harming an undercover member of their group? That remains to be seen. Maybe we'll know more on Dynamite. Maybe we'll see more on Dark as we progress through 2020 and finally figure out who is the Exalted One for the Dark Order. But for now, we're going to transition from Dark to NWA Power. This week's episode of Power starts with the announcement of Sean Mooney joining the announce team. Nick Aldis comes out for a very strong promo. He says that Marty is scared, which garners some understandable boos from the crowd. Aldis is great when it comes to promos. I gotta say, like, he's, as we will find out later in this episode, amazing when it comes to promos. But this opening promo is very strong because he keeps that kind of, you dislike the heel. You're not supposed to like the heel, right? I know you, my loyal Dark Powerrr listeners, and I have discussed many times what it is that makes somebody like Kevin Owens, a good heel, but not a good heel at the same time, because he's doing bad things, but he's getting cheered for it, and people love him. Aldis knows that, and Aldis has a way, whether it's the suits he wears, or the tone of his voice, or just the inflection that the emphasis on different words and syllables and all that kind of stuff. He knows how to work a crowd, and he knows what he's there to do. He knows what he's there to convey. He's there to convey that while he's saying Marty is the person who is scared, it's kind of almost as though Aldis is the person who's scared. But what I like is that he sets up in the beginning the tease for the end, which is a sit-down between himself and Marty Scurll. So next up is Saul Renaro is out on commentary for a match between Royce Isaacs and Andre Gunn. This match is almost more about Saul Renaro, Royce, and May Valentine than it is about Royce and Andre Gunn. Royce is taking a bit of a beating, and Saul is talking about it. When Royce comes out of the ring to just recover for a little bit, he overhears what Saul is saying. He doesn't like it. They start getting into it, arguing with each other. May Valentine has to remind Royce that there's a match going on. He runs back in to beat a 10 count. Match continues. He picks up the win over Andre Gunn, which I expected because we don't really have not met this Andre Gunn person, and Royce definitely needs a win at this point. But at the end of the match, he gets upset with May Valentine for continuing to talk with Saul Renaro, and it seems as though they may be kind of teasing something there. Maybe it's something to build in the future. Maybe it's just it's a thread that it's more about May Valentine and Royce as opposed to the three of them. It could have been anybody. It just happens that they wanted to go with Saul for that purpose. The match itself, nothing really to write home about. I mean, this is kind of the purpose. Again, it's more about Royce and May and maybe Saul than it is really about Royce and Andre. After this, Thunder Rosa is out for a promo, but to the surprise of the interviewer, Melina and Marty Bell show up too. They're talking about Thunder Rosa's big win at the Hard Times pay-per-view, where she became the new NWA Women's Champion, first Mexican Women's Champion, and Melina tries to take credit for the win. This does not sit too well with the crowd. You can kind of see it not sitting too well with Thunder Rosa herself. There is some hints here about a Thunder Rosa face turn. I think that's something that they're going to be doing over the next couple weeks. That's the tease and then the turn. The promo itself is really good because I really liked it because the crowd really wants to hear from Thunder Rosa, but Melina keeps cutting Thunder Rosa off before Rosa can really get into her bag and start really cutting a promo of her own. But when Thunder Rosa does finally get the microphone to herself, the crowd really reacts. The crowd really gets into it, and they're really hearing what she's saying, and you can feel the passion in what she's saying. You can feel the energy behind it. It's a real sentiments that she's able to convey, and you're wondering whether this is Thunder Rosa, whether it's Melissa Cervantes, but either way, it's just a really great promo, and they're definitely hinting towards a face turn, I think. After this, there's a Ricky Starks promo. He is at the interviewer table. He's talking about he's kind of in this promo. He shows why he's going to be a big deal in wrestling for the next many years. It's kind of funny because he's talking about. He says, I'm the TV champion, but we're not really just on TV. We're on the internet. We're on people's computers. We're on smartphones. We're on tablets and all that kind of thing. And it's interesting because he's talking about the current technology and the future of technology, and he kind of is embodying the future of wrestling. It's kind of a good side-by-side comparison, especially because he starts off the promo by talking about former TV champions and saying that he's not there to change history, but he just wants to add more chapters to the book, which is a really nice touch. He calls out Zicky Dice, outlandish Zicky Dice, who comes out as I kind of had a feeling. Zicky Dice notes that Dan Maff, he was not prepared for Dan Maff because he wasn't expecting Dan Maff. He didn't know he was going to have to face Dan Maff. So it makes sense that he would lose, and that if he hadn't had to face Dan Maff, he would be the TV champion and not Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks goes back and forth with him. They're doing a little bit of the classic heel talking about how much everything he's wearing costs. And Ricky has some good clapbacks for that. And they have a really solid match because from this, Ricky picks up the win. During the match, they talk about Lucky 7. So, this is actually kind of interesting to me. The Lucky 7 rule is going to state that if somebody is the TV title champion, and they successfully defend the title 7 times. Now, defenses here can also include count-out victories if it goes to that time limit, because remember, TV title matches are 6 minutes and 5 seconds. But if the champion can hold the title through 7 of these matches, whether it's count-out win or an actual pinfall win, then the TV title champion can challenge for the world title. Now, you may be thinking, that's just a really nice wrinkle, and it is. It's very similar to the, I forget the exact, Option C. I think it was either called Option C or Option X, but the story was that if you were the X Division in TNA Impact, if you were the X Division champion when Destination X rolled around, you had the option to cash in, so to speak. You would vacate the X Division title in order to face the world champion. And if I remember right, I think the first person to do this was Austin Aries. I think it was Austin. Yeah, I think it was Austin Aries who used this to. I forget who he went after. I remember the next year it was Chris Sabin and Bully Ray, and Sabin beat Bully Ray in Lockdown or something like that. I forget the exact timeline off the top of my head, but it's something similar in that vein. Why is this more than just interesting? It's interesting, obviously, because it's just a nice addition to the title. It gives a champion something to fight for. We're now like, how many is he away from challenging for the world champion? But it could be considered a loophole, because remember, and this is actually the first thing I thought of when I'm watching this match, and they started talking about that. I almost got pulled out of the Starks' Dice match, and I started thinking about this because I am in the legal profession, so I look for interesting loopholes and things like that come up or that I can think of. Always kind of appeal to me. So Tim Storm cannot challenge for the World Championship anymore because he lost to Nick Aldis in the beginning of NWA. But if Tim Storm were to win the TV title and successfully defend it 7 times, technically speaking, he should be allowed to have a shot at the world title, despite him saying or making the promise that he would never challenge again for the World Championship. So it's not necessarily something that I think they are going to do, whether it's immediately or anything like that, but it's something to think about. It's something to keep in the back of your mind. So coming out of this, there is a really hilarious promo. James Storm and Eli Drake come out for a promo while they're cutting the promo, which their half is already funny. Question Mark and Aaron Stevens come out. These teams go back and forth a bit. There's some great. James is drinking. Like that's kind of the concept here is that James Storm is drunk, and Eli is not really sure how drunk, what's going on here, all that fun stuff, and it leads to really a hilarious line where James Storm is telling these drunken jokes, and Aaron Stevens just says, "I hope to God that you're sterile," and it's just. With his delivery, it was just really great. Later, so then Eli Drake and James Storm go into the crowd, and Trevor Murdoch comes out, and he says that Stevens was running, and that Stevens was running after his match at Hard Times. If you'll remember from Hard Times, the disqualification with Scott Steiner. After that happened, Scott Steiner started attacking Question Mark, and instead of helping Question Mark, Aaron Stevens kind of turned tail and ran. So Trevor Murdoch says that he went to management, and next week, Murdoch versus Stevens, title on the line. So now we have somebody who the crowd naturally boos for in Aaron Stevens, somebody who the crowd naturally cheers for in Trevor Murdoch, and we're going to be having a title match next week. Question Mark does his Mongrovian spike on Trevor Murdoch as a sneak attack, and that is technically the end of NWA Power. Except for this sit down, and it's really great. If you miss all of Power, this week's episode of Power, but you watch this sit down, you got what you needed. This sit down is absolutely phenomenal because what Nick Aldis does in this promo is just fantastic. He is going to make you feel sorry for him. Because what he does is he talks about how the two of them had, he said, people always mistreated me in this business, or used to, be backstabbing, lying snakes and all this sort of thing. He said, but he was like, who wouldn't do that? I always thought Marty. Marty's a good guy. And then you challenged me for the title at the Crockett Cup last year. And we had our match. And he's like, and I bled all over the place. But after the match, my hand was raised. And I thought, we did what we were supposed to do. We broke the bank. We did good pay-per-view numbers. The people were happy. Marty got it out of the system. We're friends. We're still friends. But Marty, I don't know what's gotten into you. Why do you want this match? Why are you taking the thing? Why are you trying to take the thing that defines me? And that's kind of interesting. A lot of times, heel wrestlers, especially heel champions, especially heel wrestler champions in the vein of Ric Flair, are defined by the title. And that's not a bad thing. Oftentimes they say, the man makes the title, not the title makes the man. And it's true, but it can and should also be the flip side. It can be both. And in this instance, the fact that it's both is good. Nick Aldis makes the world heavyweight title, makes the world's championship in this moment. From 2017 until now, Nick Aldis holding the title either off and on between he and Tim Storm, or he and Cody, and then back to him, and now holding it since 2019 when he got it. 2019 when he got it back in the beginning. Aldis has brought the NWA back, right? And he's part of the reason why they even have a YouTube show. He's part of the reason why there is this groundswell of support behind NWA Power. He's the reason why I'm doing this show and you're watching, right? It's Nick Aldis. What Nick Aldis has brought that interest to the table, and because people were interested in Nick Aldis, they tuned in, and then they saw Thunder Rosa, they saw James Storm, they saw Eli Drake, they saw Tim Storm, they saw these established names, but then they also saw people like Ricky Starks, who they wouldn't have seen otherwise. And you see Caleb Conley, and you see Tasha Steelz, and you see Ashley Vox, you see all these people that you would not maybe have seen otherwise, and they're able to get your interest and they're able to become stars because of what Nick Aldis has done. And Nick is saying to Marty, I have defined the NWA World's Championship for years now. And because of that, my name is synonymous with this title. You're doing this now. You're coming after me. Why? It doesn't make sense. Why would you do this to me? We're supposed to be friends. And you feel bad for all this because you kind of understand, yeah, this is this guy's life. This is his livelihood. This is how he provides for his family. Now, granted, his wife is Mickie James, and she's a producer at WWE, so they're probably not hurting for money, and he's got a lot of checks from when he was in Impact. But this is his livelihood, right? This is not just his work, it's also his passion. We all want to have a job that's also our passion, right? So we can understand where Nick Aldis is coming from. It's a great humanizing moment for the champion and the heel. And honestly, like, I'm watching this and I'm like, I really do want all this. Like, I kind of want all this to retain. And now it's on Marty. Right now it shifts to Marty. And Marty's saying, I have never won a world title. Now, okay, he has, I think, won the Destiny World Championship. But if you want to be a stickler, we'll say in a large promotion, in a large promotion that has a TV show, even. He's never won the world title. In New Japan, he was a junior heavyweight. And he was a junior IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion. In Ring of Honor, he was an ROH TV Champion, but he could never hold the Ring of Honor World Title, right? He never got that. We all went into, what was it? I think the MSG show? Yeah, I think it was the MSG show, thinking he was going to win the ladder match between, it was he, Triple Threat, him, Jay Lethal, Matt Taven. People thought that this was going to be the Marty Scurll moment. I know I did. There was a lot of support from Marty. Matt Taven ends up picking up the win. And Matt Taven holds the title. And then loses it to Rush, who loses it to PCO. Where's Marty Scurll in all of this, right? And Marty's pointing this out, and Marty's saying, like, I came this close to beating you at the Crockett Cup. I know I could have beaten you. I could have done it. It's this close. And you start to understand Marty's perspective. You're saying, wow, like this, it's not, Marty's not doing this because he is vindictive towards Nick, right? Like, it's not a situation where the animosity between them is personal. It's almost to, not to be funny or to make a play off of Aldis's faction. It's almost strictly business, right? Marty Scurll probably looked at it and said, well, in New Japan, if I go back to New Japan or I go to New Japan, I'm probably going to be a junior heavyweight. So I'm not going to really have a shot against Naito. If in Ring of Honor, I don't know what's going to happen. We know he's taking over booking authority, so technically, yes, he could make himself world champion. But if you're looking at it from the perspective of the character of Marty Scurll, he's saying, I don't know if I can take the world title in Ring of Honor. But more importantly, why would I want to? Because PCO has it. PCO is part of Villain Enterprises. I am the leader of Villain Enterprises. I at least control the Ring of Honor world title. But I know I came close to beating Nick. And I think I can do it. And if I think I can do it, I should try to do it. I should try to get this rematch. So, Nick Aldis has stated that at Hard Times, he stated that if he beat Flip, then he would be the one who determined all of their business dealings going forward. Marty agreed. Nick did beat Flip. In the beginning of the episode of NWA Powerrr, Nick said, you know why I'm the national treasure. You know why I'm the leader of the NWA. But after this sit down, you will know why I am the dealer. It's the dealer that put that stipulation there with Tim Storm, saying if you lose, you can't challenge for the world title anymore. It was the dealer who said to Rock and Roll Express, if you win that 6-man tag match, I'll give you the title shot. It was the dealer who said to Marty, if I beat Flip, I get to determine how our future dealings work. It was the dealer every time. And now the dealer possibly deals his best hand yet. He says to Marty, because Marty is claiming that it's not about the money that they would make as he would make as world champion, or make for doing the match. It's not about it's not even really about the prestige. It's more just about Marty knowing he did it, right? It's Marty knowing he was a world champion. So he says, if that's true, then here's Nick's offer. He'll give him the title shot at the Crockett Cup 2020. But if Marty Scurll loses, he has to provide a money-back guarantee by reimbursing the ticket cost of every single person who attends. So it's time for Marty to put his money where his mouth is. Will he or won't he? How much does it mean to him? They've already created the hook for next week's episode of NWA Power, and that's where we will pick this thread up again. So I'll see you guys next time when we review AEW Dark, NWA Power. Thanks for tuning in.